do it to the. All right,
Okay.
got it.
Awesome.
So
Awesome. Because it's all useful, right?
yeah,
Well, thank you for inviting me to this. I'm super excited. This is my favorite topic.
is it? I
Yeah.
wasn't sure. I knew you did standard hypnosis because I think the bulk of your sessions. What do you do with hypnotherapy typically? Like, what's your main focus?
Everything. To like, do I look like a person that has any sort of focus? Really? No, no. Everything. You know, this is one of the questions most often people ask. How do I find my life path? How do I find my mission, my calling in life? People will literally call you for that. This is your calling.
Yeah.
People will call you and ask you for help on that thing. This is your life calling. So
Funny.
I do past life regression. I do, you know, bread and butter hypnosis things like weight loss, anxiety, sleep issues, smoking cessation. Right now is big because people are afraid to die. Who knew? um,
Yeah.
Shamanic practices obviously is a big chunk of my practice too, and ED, well, erectile dysfunctions for men. That's a big portion of my
Wow.
business.
I didn't know that. I'm so glad that you do that. There are so few people who are upfront about that. And I think it's like such a topic that's hard, especially for men. It's hard to talk about that. So it's nice to know there's somebody out there who's,
It is, and every call starts the same. How do I say it? Like there is no other way to say it unless you just say it.
yeah,
Well, that's part of our life, and if you don't talk about it, how can you address it?
it doesn't get better. That's right.
Mhm.
I guess it's kind of like, the same for me. It's kind of funny that you said, your life purpose is basically what people are calling you to do. So, like throughout my whole life, I mean, I started with, being interested in tarot and kind of the occult from like ages 9 right up until 11, 12, 13, reading tarot for other people. I've always been interested in astrology. I did psychic readings for a while. I went into the healing world with Reiki, and mediumship became really prominent in my life as well, and then coaching and hypnosis. And it's like, when am I going to fit in a box? And it's like, oh, that's cute. I know my guides are somewhere saying, Amanda, that's adorable, we need you to ask. So you're going to play with all these boxes and hey, enjoy it.
Well, Amanda, isn't it true that doesn't matter which modality you use, which label you put on it, you're doing kind of the same thing with
Yeah,
your clients?
yes and no. So recently there was a little shop nearby that was looking for a Reiki practitioner. And I'm like, I could be doing past life regression. We can do some hypno Reiki. Why not? Have a great little session, align, balance the chakras right there on the table. Done.
Nice,
So yeah,
nice.
whether it's hypnosis, whether it's Reiki, doesn't really matter, does it? I think hypnosis is more effective though. I've become very biased.
Well, it's kind of like you're making a salad. If you put just lettuce, it's just lettuce. You can't call it salad,
Yeah.
right? But humans are a lot more complicated than salads. You need more than just one thing. You have to address it with different tools, right?
Yeah. Did you attend the Hypno Summit? It just recently finished. Yeah.
No, I did not. I did not. I did
Lan-
not.
Lance Baker was one of the keynote speakers and he spoke on mesmerism, and it just finally like realigned something in me because he was going back to his roots as a healer. And I thought, ever since I dove into hypnosis, I kind of let go of the Reiki world. I kind of let go of the sound healing using tuning forks, remembering the healing stare that you can do over Zoom. And there's been part of me that's been looking for that. And then he just aligned it perfectly. It was such a good talk. So if you get a
Nice.
chance to see it, it was really good.
Thank you.
But nonetheless, today we're here to talk about past life regression. And I can't wait to hear some of your stories.
Well, the things start to change really. When I just started doing past life regression, the reasons were mostly physical illnesses, the type with we get our clients, something unexplained, illogical, mystic. Um, that's why people used to come to past life regression. They
Yeah.
seeked it as a last resort for their pain.
Mhm.
But over time, things start to change. And now it's more like, okay, I've done everything was necessarily. I built a career. I have a roof over my head. I have a family. Children are grown. What now? What do I do next?
Yeah.
So this is why people come most often now for. And also, maybe a couple of past years, that's a new too. I start getting very young people,
Mhm.
teens and in 20s, and they all say the same. I know I've meant to do something special. Help me figure it out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of so exciting. So exciting.
I think for me, mm, I wasn't thrilled about past life regression at first. It wasn't when I was learning hypnotherapy. It wasn't the thing that caught my eye. I was enthralled with parts therapy, working with the subconscious, and just the overall shifts that can happen there. And the thing with, past life regression is there is that little bit of stigma. Some hypnotherapists won't do it at all. There are some that absolutely don't even want to address it or approach it. And I think that's a shame, especially if they've got clients who have challenges that aren't being addressed. When you
Mm-hmm.
go through all of the other sessions and you're like, what is left? Yeah, it's that part.
The best part of past life regression is that you can be absolute skeptic. You don't need to believe in it, and your clients don't even have to believe in it. It still works. If you just use it as a therapeutic technique, just like any protocol we use in hypnosis, it will still bring you the results. You don't
Yes,
have to believe in it.
I'm so glad that you addressed. Yes, because I was, coming to that myself. And so ultimately when I'd learned that's what was taught was whether you believe in it or not, whether your client believes it or not, whether you can validate the past life or not, because there
Mm-hmm.
are plenty of people out there who are and who have, the results are the same. And it's like, why would I segregate this one aspect of a beautiful modality when the results will still come through? Who am I to say, no, I'm not going to touch this, because at the end
Exactly.
of the day, it's
Exactly.
results that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes people would come with what seems to be as a not very complex and obvious issue.
Yeah.
Even something like, I don't know, weight or a pain, something that needs only one regular traditional hypnosis session, but they will ask for past life regression because they read something about it that resonated, or maybe they're looking for something very um, not orthodox
Yeah.
to address their issue because they believe that in regular traditional way it cannot be fixed. And I
Mhm.
know, and I even tell them we can do just plain hypnosis session. I believe we can fix it. If they still prefer to have past life regression, I will give it to them. But I use it first of all. My first and biggest goal is to fix the issues they brought. I will wrap up whatever I need to fix that into past life regression. And if we have something bigger, and every time we do, there's something comes up interesting and useful, that's, a cherry on top of it.
Yes. I love that too. I mean, I know that the past life sessions I've done, I have not done a lot. I did my practicum. I've done a few because people have asked for them. I hesitated and I took time making it available. But the people that I have done it with, there is always that cherry on top. I had one who was a colleague. She wanted a past life regression session because she felt a special connection to someone who had come into her life. And so she wanted to know just more, like, what is the dynamic of this energy that she could feel between them. And the cherry on top was she had physical pain in her body. And I can't remember if it was if it was an autoimmune. She was having problems with inflammation, and specifically to a certain area on the body. After the one session that we did, we just brought up the one past life. We noticed that she was a Native American, and the person that she felt connected to was her sibling. And so through the past life, she saw their lives together, the love, the connection. She saw her death. When we worked through the death process, we removed a physical arrow because she was Native American. They were at war. She got hit by an arrow and died. She was a man in that past life. After we released it, the inflammation had gone within like 2 days, and it was just a total bonus because she came in for a very different reason. But that's hypnosis, isn't it? It's always like the added extra benefits, and it's like, I can't wait to see how this unfolds for you.
Yes, it's like playing lottery. The only thing you can be sure of, you will win. You just don't know how big the prize is going to be, what exactly you'll get.
And in how many ways it can be so different. It's wild.
Yes. Yes.
So you had a personal experience with past life regression. Tell me more about that one.
Yes, of course, I was putting it off for way too long. Just like cobblers without shoes. How often do you use hypnosis on yourself intentionally?
Yeah, no.
You put in yourself, on the back burner all the time. So did I. I was born with the marks. I sent you the photos.
Yes.
They look like scars. So there's double parallel two stripes on both of my ankles, symmetric.
Able and
Oh, you didn't notice it on the photos? Huh?
I saw them, but are you comfortable and interested in sharing? Maybe share your screen and show them if you have them. I don't know if
how can I edit?
Are you watching from Facebook or are you watching from Zoom?
I'm on Zoom. Okay, let me find it.
Yeah, if you feel comfortable, just
I'm fine. I mean, I don't often show pictures of my feet to people.
Special request only, that's right. And there's a fee. I'm terrible with jokes. Funny, when you sent them initially, I thought I had forgotten about the conversation we had. I'm like, oh, is this for a toe reading? I don't tell people that I do that. So I thought for sure it was for a toe reading. Oh goodness.
Right, Amanda, I'm looking for it. I'm not sure. Okay, I found it. I've organized it and put it in a safe place, which means you can't find it anymore. All right, I found it. How do I share it? I don't see.
Maybe it's
okay. Share the screen. Oh, it's disabled. You need to give me permission.
Well, me and technology lately. I've got my phone over top, so I'm like trying to see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to from here. More. Let's see. Can make host. Here, tell you what, let me make co-host. Let's see if you have it then. Because it was really fascinating to see. And for me, like when I did the Facebook Live the other day and I was talking about that past life that I hadn't, completed and done the healing on.
Right. Can you see it? I know my feet are ugly. I'm 50 years old. Forgive me. But here's the marks. You can see they're, with the lighting, not perfect, but they are visible to me because I look at them every day. Let me show you the other one. Maybe it will be.
Have these your whole life? Like, when did you become aware of them?
As long as I remember myself. Um,
So for some people, they're born with a birthmark. They're born with something that's uncommon.
here's at least one you can see better.
Yeah, that's pretty indented. Like you can see
Yeah,
that.
well, when you look close in the right lighting, it looks like it's been even stitched.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Stop share now. Okay. I'm not going to torture you with some decent pictures anymore.
No.
As long as I remember myself, they were there. Um, Obviously, for a child, it's not a big deal if you see them every day. But remarks from other people: "Oh my gosh, what happened to your feet?
Yeah.
Were you cuffed?" That was interesting remark which came up in my regression. Were you cuffed? People will make jokes, were you cuffed? And then as I matured, I start having this problem of swelling of the ankles. And at some point it gotten so bad I went to see specialists and they didn't find anything wrong. Not with my veins, not with my arteries. There was no inflammation. They would just swell up sometimes without any pain.
Were you already a hypnotherapist then? Had you begun or
Before that.
it was before?
Before
Okay.
that. And then when I got into the healing, actually actively start seeing people on regular basis, of course I had to study more and gain more experience. The psychosomatics of swelling of the ankles need to escape situation. And through my experience working with the clients, and I've seen a lot of healers, lots of healers, every healer has health issues. This is why they became healers. But that's one of the common issues too, swelling of the legs, feet, or ankles, something like this. And almost every one of them said, I know I don't belong here on earth, meaning I don't belong here. I've been forced to come here. Me, on the other hand, I've never felt that I'm not home. I feel very much at home. In fact, I feel that some of the interesting human beings that I meet less at home here than I am. Okay. So I've never had that feeling that I'm not at home. But then when I finally decided to do regression, specifically with this intention to figure out where the marks keep coming from, why my feet are swollen, I got those impressions of being on a big wooden boat with pirates and my ankles are cuffed. The marks didn't disappear after the sessions, but during the session, they start to burn, became bright red. So which, gave me that indication, yes, I am onto something. It is really connected. You know how our body tells us things when we don't understand. So I knew that was a connection. But what was even, I think, more important, one of the pirates was my boyfriend at the time. And the relationship was so strange. I tried to break off more than a dozen times, and somehow I looped back together. And it was very dysfunctional, and I kept overgiving, like I felt like I need to pay off for something to get rid of him. This is how I felt.
Yeah. Is it
I felt like maybe life brings us back together because I owe him something. If I'll just keep doing more for him, helping him more, I'll pay it off and I'll get rid of him this way. This is how I felt. I really believed in it. Crazy, right?
Did you know Akashic Records then and, negotiating the contract?
Well, I tried that releasement. It didn't. We still, it just kept looping in circles. I would, break it off. I'll do all the cleansing, the cord detach and everything else. Sage my home.
All the rituals. They
And then a few weeks later, I'm back into the same position. So, in that regression, I realized that that was the opposite. He owed me.
Mm.
So, dynamic of that relationship changed like 180 degrees. And then every day I would wake up in the morning and think, okay, I could break up with you today, but I'll wait. I'll give you another chance to pay off your bad karma.
Did you ever have the conversation with him?
No.
You're going to have, but I mean,
No, but yeah, the whole, now, like for the first time in my life, I was comfortable of accepting somebody's help, actually demanding it.
Yeah.
And expecting it, like, you owe me.
So
Do this for me now.
was that kind of a side effect of the regression? Was that instead of you feeling like you owed him a debt, that you were able to reconcile, oh no, I'm actually in the red in the karma. Yeah.
And that changed my view on all relationships. From that position of constant overgiving, forcing my help on people, I was able to relax and tell myself, I don't think I owe anybody anything.
Wow. That's a big thing to change.
It is, yes. Just like with any regression, you go for one thing and you retrieve something else.
I know. I love it so much. And it's not just regressions, it's all of hypnosis. Every time I practice on someone, there's always more. Last week, my spouse, who's been on tobacco for 20 years, whether it was smoking or chew, was finally ready to give it up. Today marks a week. Did some session work, and I had made the suggestion of your subconscious will continue to do the work. I look forward to see what benefits are going to come through for you because there's always more. And sure enough, he's also had a sleep problem for the majority of his life where he's not someone who wakes and is refreshed in the morning. So this Saturday after the session, he woke up refreshed and he was startled because
He never experienced that before.
He's just like, oh wow, people do this. People wake up refreshed in the morning. He had like his own experience with it. It was just so funny.
Yeah.
But he's tobacco free, so I'm super happy. And he's only had the one session. There's other stuff coming up. Like he's got this need to put things in his mouth, and it's like, let me know when you're ready for another session.
That's, I've never smoked, but the food, chocolate and all this, that's rooted in childhood, really. When you did not get enough attention from your mom, whether you did or not, but you felt that you didn't get enough.
Well, all I know is there are packets of sunflower seeds around my house. And his belly is getting a little bigger, and it's like, well, when you're ready for a follow-up session, I'm right here. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But if you don't want to always have something in your mouth, let's sit down together. Make an appointment with me like my clients do, so you're going to show up on time.
That's nice, but for smoking, first 3-4 days are the hardest. After that, he's a non-smoker.
So that's
Good job, Amanda.
Something left, and I was hesitant to do the smoking thing. I was almost sure Past Life Regression was going to come up for him. Because as a student, I had practiced on him. He's always been my guinea pig. He's so good about that. My first experience doing Past Life Regression was with him. And you know how sometimes you have a client and their voice will change and almost like transmutation. You see the change in the face. And I knew it could happen, but I also knew it was rare. So when it happened, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, oh my
shocked you. Yeah.
He spoke with a southern drawl. The canter of his words was completely different. He got a name. He got so many details. And on that lifetime, he was a slave in a tobacco field. And I thought for sure that there was going to be a link. And then it's like, hypnosis. You never know. At the end of the day, whether it's past life or not, we find our answers, we find our solutions.
This is so interesting. But yes, every session, you think you've seen everything, but there is a surprise, the element of surprise and even shock. I'm happy that I record every session because my jaw drops. And then you worry that once the session is over, your client's not going to believe you.
Yeah.
You know?
You want to record things just so they know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where you can revisit it all yourself and hear it for yourself and re-explore if you need to.
I had a gentleman who's a biker, that's big, scary guy with a big beard, all in tattoos. He's sitting in my chair, and all of a sudden, he says he's a little girl. He did give me a name. His pinkies went up.
Having a tea party.
Yeah, and he started talking like a little girl. Like, oh, she's not gonna like it. Like, let's see if she's not going to like it.
Yeah. Did he recall the change in his voice? Did he recall it?
No, not until he saw the recording.
My spouse didn't have the recollection of it either. And that was over 2 years ago now. So when I asked him again yesterday, do you remember that? Because that was my only experience with it. He's been the only one so far. And he didn't recall. And it's like, I wish I had recorded it. So he could have heard, because he wouldn't be able to see the change in his face and how it looked so different. Like he took on the energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people remember everything and some not, although I try to embed that you will remember everything in detail.
Yeah, I was new, so I'm not sure that I did, because it was just a first time practicing. But it's funny how some people really do remember every vivid detail, and others need the extra help. They need the extra command to do so.
Yeah.
So what happened after your regression? Tell me more about that, what you learned.
My own?
Yeah.
My own?
With being a pirate, with the karma of the relationship being upside down.
Well, I guess the biggest one was for me that when I felt trapped, well, that's, needing to leave, like escape, that's sure thing for me. I am a runner. Every person I've ever been in a relationship, and I've been married 4 times. Yes, they'll tell you I am a runner. I feel trapped. Even if it's a good relationship, I still feel trapped, and I feel I'm much better away someplace. But now, well, I used to try to fight that swelling of the ankles. I would torture myself with a compression hosiery. It's not fun.
No, I've tried it. It's not fun.
It's not fun. Yeah. Putting it on takes effort. Then by the evening, if you spend all day like this, it actually causes pain. Then you kind of dependent on it. You go on a trip, you have to make sure you have enough pairs with you. And then your wardrobe depends on it too. You don't want to everywhere to show it off. So I quit that. I gave up on it. And now I just see my ankles as a strong indicator. I just started paying attention to the patterns when it happened, around whom it happened. Because it's not always swallowing.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe we have to close that chapter and not go back there anymore.
Yeah. It's an interesting kind of correspondence that you've made. My grandmother, she wasn't so much a healer, but she had mediumistic abilities, and I don't think she really spoke openly about it. I had a very strange childhood. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, who was, French Catholic, church every Sunday, the whole family. But yet, when you walked in the house, there was a statue of Buddha. No one ever explained to me why. I always loved to see it. It always brought me joy to see it. No one ever explained why. And then I found out much later in life, after she'd passed, they used to go to spiritualist churches before I was even born. And she was a medium. And I don't know that she ever shared that with other people. And so as I grew up, it was almost as though she could split link and tap into what I was aware of. So if I was in her house, next door there was an apartment, and it was kind of like a halfway house. So a lot of troubled people would come in, people with mental illness, people with addiction, which is a great place for spirits trying to get their kicks off. And so a lot of things happened there. She had this stairway, which I think is called the butler's stairway, which would go from the third floor down to the second. And as a kid, I would go and I would want to go down to play in the garden. And so I would go to open the door, and sometimes I couldn't get the door open. And I would be to the point of crying and frustration. I can't get the door open. And so I would tell her, Mamera, I can't open the door. And I'd stand behind her, and sometimes she would verbally say, okay, now that's enough, stop it. I used to think she was talking to me for the longest time. And then it's like, wait a minute, I was standing behind her. I wasn't doing anything. Who was she? She was a medium. But she knew. And so she would command the spirit, say, hey, knock it off. And sure enough, the door would open. I'd go downstairs to play. I would feel, the intimidation in the stairway. I would feel the presence. It was wild to me.
So cool.
So she had that within her, and her legs used to swell. She had ulcers in the legs, sometimes the swelling, the veins were insufficient, so the blood wouldn't pump. And there would be times when she would be in bed for a week and a half, wearing compression socks, the whole bit. And I never made that connection of the swelling in the ankles and the feet. And I've had that problem, not this year so much, but last year it became a problem. And it was just like, what is going on here? And I'd never made the connection to healing or anything like that.
Well, it's swollen because of the water retention. What is water energy? Emotions, psyche, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All that involves healing, psychology,
yeah. I live
empathy.
in them every day, deeply every day. And sometimes I forget to ground at the end of the day. And so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Having that abundance.
Yeah.
So what did your client who had the voice change, who was the biker, became a little girl in the past life, what did he say after hearing his session?
So I knew he's not going to believe me. Yeah. And he totally did not remember. Mm-hmm. Probably part of his consciousness blocked it out because he was this, ruthless. And I wasn't going to tell him myself, you were a little girl and all that. And like, well, you're going to have a copy of the recording. Take your time. Yeah, he did listen to it, he watched it, and he messaged me later. This is between you and me, right? There was even some sort of, a little bit, I felt like a threat. Like, make sure it doesn't.
Yeah. I can imagine, especially when someone builds that image of themselves, that kind of persona over time. And a lot of times I find that people who do that, like bodybuilders, not all of them, but a lot of them were actually hurt in early life and in childhood. And so they have that need to physically
compensate. They're trying to compensate. Yes.
It's a little intimidating just so that they can feel safe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to access that and have that vulnerable moment of, oh, I had this life that was completely opposite of what he's doing in this lifetime.
Yes.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite client session that you've done with past life regressions?
Every client's my favorite. Anytime somebody comes in, not just for past life regression, but once they come in and doors closed, world cease to exist. This is all. This is my life, my God, my everything. Seriously. So every client's my favorite, absolutely. But there's so many interesting stories. Lots of time I found that weight issues, overeating, anxiety about food could be linked to starvation in past life, and this is very common. I don't know whether we have the specific, timeline now that we have to work with it.
Yeah.
I had a lady coming in who did not come for weight issues, although she's the one that seriously needed to because of her health, but she said she came out of curiosity to do past life regression. Yeah, and she saw herself dying from starvation. And it was difficult death.
Yeah.
Horrible. Because you don't die in a moment,
Yeah. I love that when clients show up and say, "Oh, I'm just curious." And usually what happens is it's some profound healing that needed to come through that's been divinely timed so that they can step into who they need to be. Mm-hmm. I always love watching that, that evolution of, "Oh, you're going to go somewhere great. I know it." I just know it.
Yeah. Then what else come to mind? I had a gentleman who's very logical engineer type.
Yeah.
And they would not usually be interested in hypnosis, period. Forget about past life regression.
Right.
But then he comes and says, what else? What will I lose if I'll try that? I've already did everything else. I'm telling you right away, I don't think it's going to work, he tells me.
Yeah.
But I still want to give it a chance.
That's right.
And it's interesting how even with this sort of mentality, you still have an amazing session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes some of them can actually be the best.
Because they don't have big expectations, and then it's shocking to them.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you have too, but there are so many clients that show up and say, "Oh, I don't think I've ever been hypnotized." Even sometimes at the end of the session, "I don't think I was hypnotized, really." But you had all these interesting You can find that however you want. As long as you get the solutions and the results, that's what I'm there for.
I had a lady saying it in a group session. We had a group session for past life regression. So usually after the hypnosis itself, I'd reserve some time for people to share the feedback, their impressions. So usually if a group is not very big, everybody has a few minutes to share. And then she's the last one, and she sits there quietly, kind of disappointed. Like, "Would you like to share your experience?" She said, "I don't think it worked for me." Like, "What do you mean it didn't work for you?" Well, tell me the impressions you got. And she started, like, "Well, I just saw myself there. It was summer. I'm in the field." And then the story starts to unfold, and I see her eyes gets bigger and bigger. She surprised herself. Yeah. She said, "I was just there walking through the fields. There were flowers, and I could smell them. It was kind of sweet and honey-like. And that dress with the blue ribbons, they were cute, kind of. And then I knew I'm going to see someone special. I was in love with him, and his name was Brad." Like, how did you get all these details from sessions that didn't work for you? Right. It's amazing sometimes.
I had one about a month and a half ago, and he's like, he had been seeing someone for hypnotherapy on a regular basis. They hadn't done past life regression yet, and I was actually hoping to do that with him. And he wasn't sure that he'd been hypnotized, and yet he had been doing and receiving hypnosis for over 2 months. And I said, well, out of all the problems, out of all the people I've met, that's not a problem I've ever encountered. So if it happens today, you'll be the first. And nonetheless, I took him through, I took him down under, and we did a parts therapy session. So here he's, actively speaking and engaged. I don't love ideomotor, especially over Zoom, because if it's at the wrong angle, you can't see it. Sometimes the screen is flipped. I don't want to
True,
play.
true.
So the suggestion that they're able to speak comfortably, easily, and then the story just starts spilling out. All of the subconscious comes out in the imagery. And so he's having this whole session. And then after the session, I can see he doesn't think he's gone into hypnosis. And it's like, what was all of that in between? I don't know. No, clearly he's the expert here, not me. It's just so funny.
So one of the most shocking and unrealistic experiences I had with a lady who gave me in hypnosis a code which consisted of letters and numbers. And she had life-threatening health conditions. And so I had no idea what that meant, but I wrote it down and I gave it to her. We both Googled it, and so it was some sort of medical code. She took it to her treating doctor, and it was a specific blood test code. And once they did that, they were able to exactly figure out what's happening to her and how to treat it. That was just so unrealistic, even now when I think about it.
I love that it was a solution, because what I thought you were going to say was that it ended up being, sometimes when someone gets a transplant, it's got a very specific number to it. And so some of the ways that people have validated their past life experience is they get that number, they take it, and then there are records of people who'd received that transplant all that time ago, and they're able to actually validate the past life that way. So I thought you were going to say that, but I love that what she received was a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's wild. It's such an interesting universe. I love the concept of past life regression, but what I'm curious about more so now is transcendence and how it plays in, especially because the medium gene came down and I caught it. I want to explore the lives in between lives. Have you done a lot of
Well,
those?
it's the same protocol. You just set that intent and go in between. I generalize and say, okay, you're in the light now. Whatever perception or a language or a symbolism this particular client uses, then it's easier for them to fit in their model of the world. So I just use the same wording. You're in the light, in the between life. Whatever you want to call it, heaven, home, divine light.
I really want to map it out. Like, I really want to explore that area and see it from that different angle, because already as a medium, I'm biased. I know certain things happen in a certain way. For the most part, there are some variables that move around, but to see it on the other end and to hear it from someone's experience, I want to begin to document that so the person knows. Because up until recently, did you know that our souls actually have their own name? I just learned that recently, that we have like a soul name.
I did not know that. I never even thought about it.
Yes. So I can't recall. I've listened to 2 books, more than 2 books. I'm always listening to something. But let me find the author here. So there are the Michael Newton books, which are fantastic, and he's done kind of like a vast exploration. And then Peter Elson. No, not Peter Elson. Hold on. Going through my list of books is ridiculous. Like, I think I might have a problem. That's what I do when I'm awake and
It's a
passionate.
good problem to have.
Actually, I think it was Peter Elson, When Souls Awaken. I
I
think it
don't know this name. Peter
if it
Elson.
wasn't him, then it's Michael Newton. But one of them was talking about how their soul has a name, and it's like I need to know what my soul's name is and how many times I've encountered it intuitively throughout my life. You make a screen name that seems random. Is it that random, or is it actually something deeper within you that just hasn't been identified? You know,
That's
how
so
often it that
interesting.
so often, and we just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So for me, it's the transcendence part. The people who want to know their purpose, who know, what have I worked on in the past few lives? What do I need to explore in this lifetime? I'm interested in those very much. Yeah.
You can just do a journey there. Set that intent and go and
Yeah.
discover. It is more, you'd get more validation if you have a client doing this.
Well, I think as opposed to me doing it for myself, I think I will just enjoy hearing people's different
Yeah.
experiences and journeys.
You just guide them and say, now we are going to explore the time you spent before coming into this reincarnation.
Yeah.
So you're not leading them in the previous life in the earth realm, but time right before that.
Yeah.
That's the easiest one. And once you anchor that experience, then you can explore farther and farther.
Yeah. I don't know that many clients are interested in that right now, but for me, I find that super exciting just to have that map of our cosmic destinations, I guess, for lack of better wording. I
Just
find
embed that into regular past life regression and say, like, well, what was your plan for this incarnation?
yeah,
To recall that they have to be there.
yeah, definitely.
It can be beneficial, yeah, not just for curiosity's sake.
Oh, there are always benefits. I don't think I've ever done a session and not found inherent benefits. Even recently, I had a lady come for past life regression, was her first experience. And for her, it wasn't just curiosity. She was having strong emotional reactions to a specific song playing on the radio, and then a specific gemstone that had come into her life. It was like a healing amulet that had come. And so she knew that these two pieces of a puzzle were coming. And she's like, okay, I'm ready to know what the puzzle is. And she didn't have intention necessarily for healing. Of course, healing happened because it's hypnotherapy and past life regression, and that's how it goes. But she actually found her her pattern for needing control and to always kind of be at the ready. She was finally able to let go a bit, and she's like, I wasn't anticipating that. And it was like, yeah, that's how the work goes.
So interesting.
It is. I love it so much. I
Yeah.
could it's one of the few things I could do every day, I think, and not need to practice other things. For me, Reiki every day, I love that it's got wonderful benefits. It doesn't satisfy my needs as a practitioner for the mystery, you know.
Hmm. Have you done groups, Amanda?
For past life
Yeah,
regression, no,
yeah. It's
no.
a different experience. You absolutely should.
Well, you taught the process for shamanic journey, which I love, and I'm very much preparing to offer it soon. And then you taught the process for soul retrieval, which I have taken a couple of people through and had really good, profound sessions. But when it comes to past life regression, I feel differently about it. I'm having some personal bias.
No, well, in the book there is a whole, layout how to do it, and you don't work on deep issues, obviously.
No, and that's why I don't like it.
Okay, got you. But it can be beneficial. It can be helpful to people who don't understand it yet and the benefits. Were just curious.
Yeah, it's not navigating, facilitating the sessions. Like I feel super comfortable with that. I'm comfortable to go off script because I'm very intuitive and I allow and it works every time. For me, it's I want the deeper results. I crave the bigger shifts. And when it doesn't in a group, it's just like, okay, yes, it's good for beginners who have that discomfort or don't have that that resonance with past lives or even hypnosis. It's a nice experience for someone who's opening up to that, and it's like, yeah, I could definitely do it. I'm sure there would be some good results, but I crave the deeper stuff.
The energy, the collective of the group is powerful. Just like if you would do journey in a group, it's different. See?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they kind of pull each other deeper.
Is there like a collective message that kind of comes together and coalesces?
Well, when I do groups, I would set a specific topic, and when I list it as an offering, they know what is it for, like specifically for health, or maybe career, or relationships.
But I mean, if you do something like, say, the topic is healing, to have a very healing experience, do
Hmm.
you know, there's
Hmm.
all like there's a group of people who've had like codependent situations. Like, does it kind of cluster like that?
Yeah, yeah, and then when we do the session, feedback is very similar. So
Mm.
they kind of pull each other and collectively work through it. And then when they share the stories, it gives other people this aha moment, this understanding. So it's all have benefits. Of course, nothing can be compared when you work in one on one with a person.
Yeah.
Nothing can get close to it, but the group experiences too can be powerful.
I think I've discounted them. And you know what? Maybe I'm going to have to push myself and just have a few experiences as a facilitator to see if I can enjoy the value in it, because there's no doubt that there's value for the people who attend. But I love challenge, and as a practitioner, I crave that and I need that. I need people with hard stuff to be like, "Oh, this is juicy. Let's do it." And my whole being just lights up of, oh, you've got a really hard problem. Oh, I'm gonna love this.
Well, if you like hard things, you would enjoy a group definitely, because imagine you have 50 people coming in and half of them crying and you have to handle it. You're going to love it if you like that.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't know about 50. That's a very big group. I don't love public speaking. Like we talked about, well, on my live earlier this week when I had the very physical reaction, that life was linked to challenges with public speaking because I had spoke up publicly for someone and then I was hanged for it. So yeah, I didn't go through. I'm still actually going to take myself through a parts therapy and go back deeper into regression as well and go do the healing work to resolve. So there's no more
Have you have you done, Amanda, your numerological chart? I wonder if your number one is isolated in the chart.
I'm a 5. Yeah.
5.
Mm.
Well, have you done Pythagorean? Am I saying it right? Pythagorean square?
No.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Do you mind?
No, let's do it. I always love learning things like this.
Okay, give me your birth date, please.
It's July 22nd.
July.
And I know 22nd, that's a special set of numbers
Yeah,
right there.
yeah. You're a healer, yeah. And the year?
83.
All right. So we have one. No, it's not isolated. I can see it.
I love that you incorporate numerology and astrology into your work. I do them separately, and numerology only the basic, but I don't incorporate it in. It's inspiring that you do.
Yeah, do you know you have a middle rose missing completely?
No, what does that mean?
4, 5,
Oh,
6. Right, it'll be like 3 hours topic. So anyway, no, one is not isolated. At least it's not. This potential is not intentionally locked from you. This is what I look in isolated numbers. In a square, Pythagorean square. There's 3 rows. Horizontally, vertically, we put 9 numbers. If one of the numbers is surrounded completely by empty squares, this is called isolated square. What it tells me that that channel, that potential, intentionally locked from you for various reasons, or you were too powerful, you created too much of some sort of change that certain institutions or egregores or entities saw as a threat. So that's one of the common things I see when people have trouble speaking. So at least that wasn't locked from you. You just have to, just do some clearing and dig up on what's there. Maybe some trauma,
I think
fears attached.
trauma from that is this lifetime. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the nature of it. I mean, even the Hypno Summit, there were so many people speaking, and one of the questions that was asked is, how many of the hypnotherapists here do self-hypnosis? I want to say less than 25%. And it was just like, oh, that is so sad. Here we have this wonderful tool. We have access. We have the understanding. So many of them don't.
Yeah, it's all on the run. Okay, while I'm doing dishes, I'm going to do affirmations. Or like while I'm falling asleep, I can do this, and then I'm already asleep before I got to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do that sometimes too. I begin a process for healing. I begin to work with some suggestions for myself, maybe do like a little bit of parts therapy. I'm obsessed with parts therapy. I will ever be obsessed. That was my first love before past life regression, for sure. I just love it. That's where all the big changes happen, all the negotiating. There's part of me that loves being an advocate. Well, INFJ through and through, I suppose, So I will actually begin at night, and that's what happened last night. I fell asleep in the middle of it, and then I had some fascinating lucid dreams after, and it's like, oh, my subconscious is still working it out. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, for last thoughts right before you falling asleep, this is what gets processed through the dreams.
Yeah. Or sometimes conversations. I've noticed that my psyche will be connecting with people like you were in my dream last night. We were psychically connecting over talking today, and it was just like kind of happening. It's like, oh, that's cool. Part of
This
me.
is so cool.
I don't have to worry. Do you have those experiences too? I'm sure you probably.
You know what lately I've been having? I hear my voice coming from above. With my voice, I'm telling myself things. Sometimes like, well, that wasn't pretty, you shouldn't have done that. It was mean. Like judgment. Or sometimes like tips, guidance. Sometimes it's very specific. Like one time I forgot, so I was planning to wear a dress and I laundered it, and you can only hand wash it. So I washed it by hands, and then I forgot to hang it to dry. Just too much to do. And then in the middle of the night, so my voice, kind of God creature, tell me from the sky, Guzalia, you forgot to hang that dress to dry. You were going to wear it to work. I woke up, went to hang the dress.
Does it feel like your soul in that moment, or does
Yes, maybe higher self, or maybe just my subconsciousness. Or maybe my guides pretending to be me because they know I wouldn't listen otherwise if it's not coming from myself. Sometimes I suspect that there will be like
Yeah.
spiritual guidance,
Mm.
something like that, and yeah, and it's coming in my own voice.
Yeah.
You know, hypnosis works much better if you record a session with your own voice, with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I do record sometimes for myself. Um,
It has to be a really persistent, nagging issue for me to do it.
I
Because
know.
that means I've already tried and it's not gone well. If I'm at that point, that's where I am.
But you know, even when I do groups or a
Mm.
class or a presentation and I have to edit it, like
Mm.
with clients, I don't edit them, I just send the copy. But if it's presentation and I have to post it someplace, I have to edit it. And
Mm.
then there is a presentation of hypnosis. Sometimes I have to restart 3, 4 times because it
Yes.
does off.
Yes, because we go into trance while editing. That was happening to me all the time. And I was at a point where it's like, you know what? I can't keep doing this. It's not that I didn't love, like, I mean, because you're essentially receiving a free session yourself. You're receiving a free session while you're doing a session. You're receiving a free session when you listen back to the audio, when you're doing editing.
Yeah,
By the time I was in it, it was like, okay, I've been in trance multiple times now, and I've had multiple suggestions layered on. That was actually what really got me excited about hypnosis, because when I started, it was an extra. I took the program I took for spiritual studies, for being a coach primarily. That was my big thing, was I wanted to do coaching. And the little 100 hours of hypnosis that I could get, I thought, okay, great, I'm just going to do it for self-care. I'm not going to see clients, I'm not going to work on people, I'm just going to do it for myself. And then, of course, during the coursework, there's practicum. I had worked on a lady who had wanted to reduce weight. Of course, after her session, guess who lost weight? And it wasn't a goal. I hadn't even, I needed it. I hadn't even set my mind to do it. I had already kind of given up after trying so many other things. And it was that course that led me to reduce like 70 pounds. And then trauma happened and life happened and I gained it back. But it was that was like, oh, I want more. I have to do more. Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting how it works. The issues we are having needs to be addressed. That's the type of clients we get. And while you're working with them,
Yeah.
then there is some sort of inspiration comes. You say it, and it's like there is a aha moment. This is what I needed to hear all my life.
Yeah. I haven't had many of those, especially lately. I found that it's things that I have thoroughly worked on and I feel super confident and comfortable with. That happens. One of my favorite, most recent clients, I actually helped her to unlock her mediumship. So rather than just be a mentor for mediumship, we used hypnosis in and out of sessions and coaching, and then she developed her skill and actually expanded it. And that was like super fulfilling to do, just super fulfilling to have done. I'm always finding new and exciting uses. And so I don't niche. I don't stick to one thing because I want to play with all the toys in the toolbox. And there are so many, it's endless. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What got you started into hypnosis?
Well, not just hypnosis and healing. I was running from it. You know, I'm a runner. I was running all my life, watching my grandmother doing healing during Soviet times in Russia, when words like psychic, uh, shaman were illegal. Seriously, you could not say it out loud.
Mm.
She could not charge money for it legally, so she got paid for her services in chickens, eggs, butter, knitted scarves, help around the house, and watching and even helping her do you know this? Endless hours while she had official job, and in Soviet Union it was a crime to be unemployed. Did you know that you could
No,
go to jail? I think you could get 2 years of jail for not working unless you're handicapped.
I'm actually Yugoslavian, but I'm completely disconnected from that part of my heritage or ancestry. It's so interesting. So to hear you speak, I feel like I know that on some level in my soul, but I don't actually know it.
So that was the situation, and from very childhood, like, no, this is not what I want for myself. It was, written over and over. If I have to make a living, I have to have an official, real job.
Mm.
And I've had so many. And then when Soviet Union fell apart, that's for the first time ever you could have a private business. So I went through the series. I had fashion atelier, shops, all sorts of things, like a few dozens. And then when I moved to US, I did the same,
Yeah.
but never in the healing field.
Mm.
But then it doesn't matter what I did, somehow I'd be surrounded with people who need it. So one of my last businesses was antique shop, which I sold, thanks God. But at the end, it gotten so bad. People would pack up in the shop,
Mm.
get healing or a consultation. Obviously, I didn't charge for it because it wasn't official.
Yeah.
And I'd be, even after hours there, spending late into the night, and people still come and they're crying and all this. And none of it helped me anyhow, I had to take care of myself and my life and make a living somehow. And one of the mornings, I came there all exhausted with dark circles around eyes. My hands are shaking. And so we had a couch by the entrance, little like love seat couch there. And this is where people coming who are next in line to get to me, they'd be sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just came in, trying to take care of my business, and they're already sitting there anxious, complaining to each other that I'm not giving them time. And I'm frustrated, upset, mad, resentful. So my friend comes in, who's a priest. That's an interesting relationship. So, and he understood, right away. He's like, Guzalia, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I feel like I'm drained. I'm dying here.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you could maybe rent a office outside of the shop, put a sign like consultation or a help, and actually get paid for it.
Yeah.
So on that day, I got rid of that couch. I got rid of that couch. You're going to laugh. First official hypnosis clients I had in a little back room of my shop. I cleared that area that we used for storage. I put 2 chairs there, regular chair, nothing, like we use fancy recliners, regular chair. And I put a sign, if you need my help, I will see you in the back, and this is how much it's going to be.
Yeah.
Not everyone liked that change.
Well, no, no.
But by the time I sold the store, I already had pretty hefty clientele. So I felt pretty safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the things, the skills that I had already by then, I couldn't, as you said, I don't know in which box to put it. How do I call it?
Yeah.
At the time, hypnosis at first seemed the most sensible. Yeah.
Oh, that's the thing. We're never meant to be just one box. There's
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. And that's why the frustration every time I hear somebody say, "Oh, niche down, get out of here with that." Too many skills, too many things, too many elements that can come in. It's such a natural tendency for me to want to blend in the Reiki, the holistic part and training, to want to bring in the mediumship into hypnosis. It's always, it's natural. It's meant to be for me, and it feels very wrong to not do it. So I almost want to call it like some people I think refer to it as spiritual hypnosis. For me, it's transcendence hypnosis. It's for exploring what is beyond this life, beyond every life we've had, because I had a really awakening, I guess, kind of experience when I was 16. It's a long story. It's a good story. It's a long one. When I was a little girl, my first pet, not my first, my major pet was a ferret. It was one that I loved. If my mom couldn't find me, she would check the pet store because that's where I would be. I would be in the pet store playing with the animals. And that ferret had died, and I was heartbroken. And I spent the next 2 years saving money in a savings account and longing for that connection, but not doing it. Until finally my mom was like, enough already. You want a ferret. You have the money. Go get the ferret. And I lived in Ville Salle, Quebec at the time. And ferrets would only come in at certain times of the year because of the way that they were bred. And so I put the deposit down and I waited something like 3 or 4 months. It was a very long time, and spring was starting to happen. And a friend said, "Oh, let's go visit this big pet store, one you've never been to." And so of course I go, and they have ferrets. And I'm crushed because I put a deposit down and I left my banking stuff at home because back then I was just 11 or 12 years old. I didn't have like a debit card on me. And it was over an hour away. I get home and I was decided that I was going to cancel the deposit, get my money back, and go buy a ferret from this other pet store and get a really great cage. I got home and the light on the answering machine was blinking because it was that age, and I listened and I burst out laughing. I laughed so hard, tears came down. I couldn't speak for like 20 minutes because I was laughing. There was a voicemail from the pet store saying, "Amanda, your ferret is in. Come and get her." That was Daisy. That ferret was made for me. I got to the pet store. I was in a rush. I was excited. I went and I looked back to see where she was. And of course, the minute I stood in front of the glass, she turned around. We locked eyes. And I was just like, "Oh, we're soulmates." We've got some stuff to do. And I loved her every single day of her life. I'm going to cry because it's hard. Still, even now, it's been 30 years. I still cry. It's still hard. She got sick. She had cancer and she needed to pass. It was in winter and Christmas, and the vet was closed, and I knew she was going to pass. This was the first time I experienced telepathy or animal communication in my life. I was loving her in the cage, and then I saw in my mind, oh, she wants a bath. She showed me an image of her in the bathtub, and I was massaging her and stuff. I didn't think about it. I was, again, like by that time, maybe 13. No, I was closer to 16 by that time, and I didn't think about it. It was just second nature. Oh, I see this, I go do it. And so I gave her a bath. And as I was massaging her under the water, I saw the image of myself putting her head under the water and holding her. And I freaked out because I thought it was me and it was her. She was in so much pain. She wanted to be put down. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. So I panicked and I took her out and I dried her off and I made her as comfortable as I could make her. And I spent the whole night holding her, falling asleep with her, just trying to connect and be with her before she had to go. I knew she wasn't going to make it till the next morning. I fell asleep and I put her in the cage because I didn't want to roll over and crush her. In the night, I had my first experience of transcendence, and this is why I'm obsessed. I could feel her at the end of the bed, but not her physical body. I had the awareness that her body was in the cage, but there she was at the end of the bed, and I saw the light. The light came with such a strong presence of unconditional love that we don't experience here as humans. We can't, that there's nothing we can do to have that. It's so, like, it was so strong. It felt like I could cut it, like the way you would cut cheese. That's what it felt like. And so having that just embrace my entire being and hearing her soul speak to me saying, I love you. I'm going to miss you. Thank you for everything you've done for me. And then what shocked me was I heard my soul speaking back saying, I love you and I miss you. I love you forever. I'll find you again. And I knew that I should be sad. Like I had the awareness that it should be a sad moment that she was going to pass, but I couldn't feel it because of the light. And then there was this knowing that happened of, oh, this is where we come from. This is where we return to. And if every person in the world could know that, could feel that, no one could do harm to another. It couldn't happen. There's no way. So my obsession with transcendence comes from that moment. And now 20 years later, I still cry. It's a hard story, but it's a beautiful story. But that is, you know, there were so many elements that awakened in me in that moment. The awareness that we have soulmates, that certain contracts are meant to happen. She had a contract to awaken me to parts of myself I didn't know were a thing. I didn't know that I had telepathy abilities. I didn't know that I was clairvoyant. I had no idea, you know, and it set me on my whole path of searching different religions and spiritualities. After that, I was unstoppable. I read everything. I searched everything. It's a wild, wild story, but that was my start.
It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
I wonder if from now on you will remember the story always with a smile, without tears.
I appreciate the suggestion. That's very sweet. I cry less and less now, and it is more sweet than it is bitter. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've had so much fun. I enjoy your presence, and of course, I love all things spiritual, transcendent, and hypnotic always.
Thank you for giving me this time. It's beautiful. I appreciate that. Well, just another suggestion. Next time somebody asks, what is your niche? You just say, Amanda.
Yeah.
It's Amanda. That is my niche.
Not be labeled. Don't even try. And if you think you can, I will prove you can't. So where do people find you if someone wants to work with you and experience hypnosis or past life regression or read one of your many fabulous books? Where do they do that?
Well, they'll have to spell my name, Guzalia Davis, and then I will come up.
Let me
everywhere.
Right now, right there. Guzalia. It's such a beautiful name. Do you have a favorite website? I know you have multiple.
GuzaliaDavis.com. This is my, one-on-one services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where they find you. If you're looking to find me, you've enjoyed this chat today. I am at Healing Beyond Trauma because that too is a passion of mine. And if you are thirsty for the transcendent, if you want to know more about what's beyond this life and what your purpose is, let's go on that journey because I'm so excited and I'm ready.
All right. Thank you.
Always. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.